Hello, and thank you for taking the time to review on how to report your Oregon Agricultural Workforce Housing Grant. My name is Gabrielle Ugaldi. I am going to be walking you through how to report using the template that we provide to you and some rules and requirements that we need as you move through your grant. To start, on the email that you received a link to this video, there should have been an attached PDF document, the one you see here. It should say Oregon Agricultural Workforce Housing Grant Report across the top with our contact information in the upper right-hand corner. You will see that we have a reporting requirements and timeline section. So at a minimum, you are required to report using the 4 items in this bullet pointed list. So a written summary of the project, including evidence that the project met the approved description, which is what this reporting template does. Your OSHA compliance certificates. So this is only if your compliance certificate has gone out of it lapsed during the period of performance, so before the end of this year, and you got a new one, you need to provide the new one to us. A comprehensive list of expenditures, so that is either in this document or we do provide you a separate Excel if you would like to use that. We will also go over that in a moment. And then documentation of improvements. So this can be before and after photos, building permits, inspection reports, etc. As a reminder, all final reports are required to be received to get the last 25% of your grant, and you are required to submit them by December 1st of 2025. We have to expend the money by the end of the year, so we need a little bit of time to make sure that we get your reports in and that they're approved to get your last 25% issued to you. Now, the instructions here are please respond to the narrative questions and fill out the documentation requirement section. Then review, sign, and certify. And a training video, you can always find this YouTube video on that link. Before you email any grant reports to me, please make sure that you have everything filled out and signed and completed, but then grant reports should be emailed to grants@oda.oregon.gov, the email that you find right here. But if you do not have email capabilities or it's difficult or the file's too large, feel free to print them out and mail them to the address listed here, the Oregon Department of Agriculture Attention Housing Grant Program. Please note that if you do mail them, we have to receive them by December 1st. So if you are getting close to that deadline and you know you're going to mail them, please write your report. Reports should be written after you've spent the first 75% of your award, because you tell us how you spent the first 75% so that you can get the remaining 25%. Now, to start, the grant report is very simple. It is 2 pages long of information, and it should be fairly straightforward for you. So to start, you need to fill out your company name. Your grantee name is going to be the contact. So, for example, if this was me, I would fill out ODA, as the Oregon Department of Agriculture would be the company. My grantee name is Gabrielle Ugaldi. My mailing address would be the 635 Capitol. And then you provide the site address of the actual location. I know many of you have multiple locations. You have to report per grant that you received, and every grant was on a site address. So you can't combine all of your site addresses into one grant report. You need to report individually. So let's just say, for example, this is 123 A Street, and then you provide your grant number, which was at the top of your grant agreement. It is an ODA 25, and then there's 3 letters or numbers after it, GR. So you're going to input those 3 letters or numbers there, excuse me. The real narrative section of your report begins here. So the question is, list the specific repairs, improvements, or activities it completed. Include quantities, description, and relevant dates. So in this section, for example, let's say that I'm buying new beds for my workers as well as new locking lockers. I would write in here something to the effect of lockers purchased on June 1 and installed on June 5, and then I would provide a description of the lockers. So lockers are locking and are 8 by 7, and then you can complete more information. Please make sure to include a list of all of the things that you have completed. This section will continue to roll. So if you fill out this entire little block with text, it will keep growing on you. So feel free to write in here as much information as possible. We're looking for the more information, the better. This second box here is describe any changes from the original plan or delays or challenges encountered. So for our example here, we said we purchased the lockers on June 5th, or June 1st, they got here June 5th. Let's say the mattresses that I purchased had a delay. So I would write something along the lines of, let's say shipping delays, delay occurred and mattresses will come later. Um, Later than intended, but still within the grant period. Now, one thing to notice, you can see I can't type or spell very well. I apologize for that, but you can see that we get a red squiggly line under misspelled words. So you can go ahead and correct those. We are looking for grammar and punctuation being correct as well. So that is one of the nice things about the PDF. Now, this section you have really two options. If you have not a ton of items in your budget, you can go ahead and fill all of this out using this information relatively clearly. So for example, let's stick to the lockers and mattresses that I have. So I have lockers. I purchased them from Amazon. They were $500 a piece. I don't know, guys. The grant funds, I spent $300 on them, and the date I paid was June 1st. So the cost versus grant funds applied basically tells us how much money they're actually costing you, but how much money you spent on them from the grant. So if you told the grant that you were going to buy lockers for $300 and you decided to buy lockers for $500, that would be the difference shown here. Now, if it's something that you spent all the grant funds on it, that's again totally fine. So you would just put a $500 even. The cost could also be interpreted as the cost per unit. So let's say we bought 5 lockers and there are, they're $100 a locker. So you could put $100 here. That's also totally fine. However you want to interpret that. We're game. The grant funds applied column does automatically total, as you can see down here, to $500. So you guys won't have to total that. So let's say we did lockers and then we did mattresses, and mattresses were $400. You can see that the grant funds total popped up to $900. If you only have a couple of items, like I said, you can use this spreadsheet. That's totally fine. You would go through and put the total project costs here and the remaining funds. So for example, we have the lockers and the mattresses. They were $900 even. The total project is going to be $2,000. So we put the total project cost there, and we've got 900 minus 2,000. Your remaining funds are going to be 1,100 here. If you guys don't spend all of your grant money, let's say for the first 75%, you guys decide that this is too much, you can't do the work that you intended, and there's no changes that we can make to help you meet the requirements of this program, and you only spend $900, and your grant was $2,000. The remaining money is going to be what we call returned to the ODA. So if you have money from the 75% that you're not going to spend on grant work, you would need to return those dollars to us, and then we wouldn't issue you any more of the 25% of your dollars. But those are rare cases, but we just want to make you aware in your grant agreement you did sign that. So if something happens and you can't spend the money, or you come out of it and you say, I just can't do this task right now within the period of performance, and you haven't spent any of the 75%, you would return that to us as well. The last section here is documentation. So in separate documents, we would like copies of invoices and receipts. This is preferably in one PDF document or one Word document. So if you take photos of the receipts, you can put those all in one Word document and email them. Before and after photos of the project area, and then an updated OR OSHA registration if it's been renewed during the project. So again, circling back to if you had to work with OSHA and get a new certification, please send that to us. And then any inspection reports or permits obtained would be helpful. You don't need to, you're not required to send those, but they would be helpful. Lastly, in the physical or in the report here is a certification, so a signature. So then you would just fill out your name, and then the date, which, whoopsie, I hit tab on that, I apologize. And then the date, there we go, June 9, and then I would sign. So when you click that box, you can hit a digital keychain, it will require you to sign, and then you can sign from there. Now, moving back up to the grant funds used, this section, if you have more funds that you have spent than these line items, we do provide a Excel document that you can use. Now, this is just a real simple data tracking expense form. You are not required to use this. You are required to provide us an expense tracking form of some kind, but you are not required to use this template. This is just provided to make it easier on you. So you would fill out any of these green sections up here. The ODA grant number, again, that's your ODA 25. There's 3 numbers after GR. So it's ODA, Oregon Department of Agriculture, the year is 2025, the number you are, and then grant is GR. So then you would fill out your company name and address. Let's do ODA, ODA 635 Capitol Street, and then it would provide your name and address. And then you would sign over here. And by sign, you can just type in your name. That is okay. You will sign after you put all of your costs in. Now, if you have a lot of costs that fill up this section of the PDF, you can just go ahead and say, see attached PDF here, and then have no costs in this section. That is completely okay. Just make sure that you fill out your total project costs and your remaining funds sections on here. But saying see attached PDF, see attached Word, that's all fine. So in the expense tracking form, we have a number of items, columns for you to look at. So date of purchase, receipt number if you have it, company items purchased from, description of items purchased, and then which cost category they fall in. So sticking to our lockers example, we purchased them on June 1st. Amazon, I'm sure, gives a receipt number, so I'm just going to make one up, 99999. Company items purchased from was Amazon. Description of item was lockers, but we're going to put that they were 8 foot by 7 foot and they were blue. We do want quite a bit of information in the description, so make sure that you fill that out. You also can extend the section if your text goes farther than this box. Again, feel free to use this as you need, but we just made it as a template for you. So lockers would fall into one of these areas that OSHA has updated for their rules. So we have site requirements, water, bathing facilities, hand washing facilities, toilets, living area, carbon and fire, fire and carbon monoxide, excuse me, cooking and eating facilities, heat, illness, and then other. So this would be a, I believe, site requirements. I'm not 100% sure on that. So like we said, we spent $500 on this. So you would just type in 500 and it auto populates into your section down here, and it will tell us how much that you have spent overall. So you would go through and you would fill all of this out with all of your costs. If you need to add more spaces, just come over here to the numbers on the left-hand side, and you can highlight a bunch of them, right-click, and select insert. It will insert a ton more. You probably didn't see it because I didn't zoom out, but it will insert a ton more lines for you as you need them. Now, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out and get a hold of me. Again, you are not required to use the Excel sheet. It's just there as a tool for you to use. You are required to report at minimum a written summary of the project, including evidence that the project met the approved description, your compliance certificate from OSHA if you have to renew during the project, a comprehensive list of your expenditures with supporting documentation, and then documentation of improvements. So again, information is up here at the top. This is my office line. Feel free to give me a call as you have questions, 503-986-6473, or shoot an email over to the grants@oda.oregon.gov email, and we will get you your questions answered. Our contact is also along the bottom here if you have more questions or need it somewhere else. And once again, these are fairly straightforward. We're not looking for a novel here. We're just looking for how you spent the first 75% of your grant award so that we can issue the remaining 25%. We really appreciate your participation in this program and look forward to reading your reports. Once again, please reach out if you have questions, and we look forward to chatting with you. Thank you very much.